Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog. Oh, man, we got an incredible broadcast. Not one, not two, not three, four of us on the screen at the same time. We're going to be talking about how third parties dominate our marketing. That's right. How the third parties get in between us and the consumers. We're going to be talking about all sorts of marketing tricks and tips, things you can actually do in your dealership. Now, I've got the marketing wizards from Reunion Marketing on today, starting with my good friend. Here he comes. Dave Spannhake with two N's. Hello, Dave. How you doing?
Hey, doing good. Glad to be on again.
I'm having the best day. It's incredible. Now, one of my new best friends, here he comes. Dave Saville.
Hey,
you probably think it's the same guy that had the Chipmunk song. No, this is another Dave Saville. Anyway, he's one of the marketing directors at Reunion Marketing, and bringing up the cleanup batter coming on. There he is, Andrew. Andrew, pronounce your last name for me.
It's Kocha.
Kocha. I didn't want to mispronounce that one.
Oh, thanks. I hear it all the time. I wouldn't hold it against you.
How you guys doing today?
Great.
Glad to be on.
Fantastic.
Topic we care a lot about.
Okay, so we're talking about the domination of third parties in dealership marketing. Dave, kick us off. Where's this conversation going to go? How's it going to help dealerships? What should BDC directors be doing to increase their marketing results? To talk to me.
Well, this is something that goes back, 7 or 8 years for Dan and Andrew and I, going back to all three of us worked for that dealership group before starting Reunion. We started Reunion 5.5 years ago, but we're constantly looking at the leads that are coming into dealerships and which ones close the best and which ones are creating the most success for a store. And across the board, it was always 2 to 4 times higher conversion, higher closing rate for the leads coming in from a website than coming from the third-party websites, Cars.com, AutoTrader, Car Gurus, all those things. So we made a concerted effort back at that group to drive more traffic to our website and get as many leads and conversations started there, as opposed to these third-party sites, because we knew they're going to close better. Because on our website, we're the sole influencers. And the other websites, the third-party websites, while they're great place to be because people are looking there, they're we're not the sole influencer, and so they're reaching out to competitors.
Influencer. No, they'll serve up what they call a VDP, vehicle description page. They'll serve up what they're calling a VDP, but it's not really a VDP. It's a picture of a VDP on their own website with 5 other dealers' units on the sidebar and financing options where they steal the finance. Is that?
That's the most exciting part of the website, is that you can tell the story. And the big part of telling that story is you want to tell a story that matches what consumers want and what they're looking for. But when you can do that on your website, that was a huge thing for us. So a big part of really what even led us to launch Reunion was we've made a concerted effort to follow the consumer and drive more traffic to our own websites. We saw over the last 3 years that we were there, 400% increase in leads coming into the dealership, and the dealership group's revenue jumped 75%. You're talking about 33 stores within that group.
Dealership revenue jumped how much?
75%.
75%.
That's marketing 101, and we had a part in that, certainly, and then as the group did, and we're proud of what we accomplished there. The traffic to the websites went up by 400% also, as did the leads, correlatively. But a lot of that was just, understanding what consumers wanted and building a greater experience across all of the channels to get more eyeballs directly on our dealers' websites and take away from some of these other areas, because people look all over the place as they're searching and shopping. How do we get to be that much louder in our influence? How do we get to be that much more front and center where the competitors aren't? And we can be the ones telling the story. That is a huge part of how we kick things off.
Hand off the ball to Dane. Dane, pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, how do they third parties rank? They have content. They have tons and tons and tons of content. So dealers need to build their own content. I mean, we recommend, building 5 to 8 pages a month of fresh new content, because Google, you need to build that authority, but then freshness is also, and relevance are important factors for dealers to rank. And it's a long-term strategy.
Stop just a second.
Yes, sir.
Everybody talks about content. Now, look, I just landed in a flying saucer egg. Me and Mork came from work, and we don't know what content is. What is content?
So it's building pages on the website that specifically align and satisfy consumer intent. So you look at what keywords are driving traffic, and you want to build content around. We know that largely it's, make, model, near me, or the geo used in the search. They're showing that intent to purchase these vehicles or to get service. So keep in mind that in the dealership, you're also fighting against the Jiffy Lubes of the world, not just the car gurus.
Really?
So you want to build this content, whether it's an oil change page, batteries page, specific model pages that have content on it that, one, leverages the keywords that are going to help you rank, two, give relevant content about what it is, like what drove them there. For the model pages, it's things like value propositions. What about the new model makes people really interested in purchasing it? Some copywriting that reminds them and builds an emotive connection, while also leveraging the keywords. But then on those model pages, it's also, guess what? Inventory on that page you build, because guess what? Every opportunity every time you make a consumer make a click, that's an opportunity they have to bounce off your site. So when you deliver on their intent with that page you just built for that 2021 Honda Civic, now there's actually Honda Civics 2021 they can look at. Conversely, for fixed ops, let's say an oil change page, you're gonna give them that copy, leverage the keywords. Put in what your amenities are for, your service department, but then you're going to give them opportunities to do things like save coupons to Apple Wallet or Google Pay. So you're giving them, you're delivering on their intent. You're using the keywords that you rank, right? And then you're also reminding them why they need that service or why they want that vehicle.
Amazing. So you just can't, like the old days, we used to just stuff a bunch of words into meta tags. That doesn't work anymore, is what you're telling me. You got to be very purposeful in what you're putting onto the page, and make it, again, you want to hit on that consumer intent. You want to deliver on why it is they conducted that search and came to your website. You don't do that. Google even understands natural language. If you're using unnatural language to stuff a bunch of keywords and content, they're going to catch on to that. That's it's not what it once was. One of my favorite phrases for Google used to be check engine light. Andrew, pick it up. Take the ball and run with it.
Yes, sir. So I want to take a step back. We dove into the content and all the value of why you need to build that. Let's take a look at the competition a little bit. Dave set the stage of how dominant these players are in the industry. I know you guys can't see my screen out there, but I just did, for example, a search for Ram 1500 for sale in Houston, Texas. Just picked a random model, random market, typically a volume model for a CDJR dealership. I don't see one mention of a local CDJR dealership on that page. I don't see.
Wait. What did you put? What terms you put in the search?
So I searched for Ram 1500 for sale, Houston, Texas. We would call that a low search. This is someone that's in the market. What I'm seeing is Carfax, Car Gurus again, Auto Trader, True Car. We've got more True Car. And you know what? I lied. All the way down at the bottom of the page, you had to scroll. We have Northwest Dodge of Houston. So really, you have all these other big national players showing up that arguably are not as relevant for that search in that market.
Andrew, one thing you may want to clarify too is that we're looking at organic results here too, right? The organic listings.
Yeah, and that was just a regular Google search. There was no Google ad that showed up at the top.
Oh, wow.
So there were no ads. There was no Google My Business profile that showed up. And there was, the organic listing that dealership showed up for was all the way down at the bottom of the Google page. The old joke about, where do you hide a dead body on page 2 of Google? I'd say the second best place is the bottom of page 1 on Google.
Anywhere below the fold.
Down.
Anywhere below the fold.
Yeah, below the fold, right? And I'm using a 27-inch monitor right here, and it's still below the fold for me. So, if you're on a laptop, you're definitely not seeing that. So, there are a few opportunities here for dealerships to show up and really own that term that they should be owning in their backyard. They organically, we would argue that's the first place you need to start, because you don't pay per click for that, right? So it's less expensive to own that search. And oftentimes that's the best quality traffic that you're going to get. So that ties in, perfectly back with what Dane was saying. If they need to build that content on their page so they can show up and beat out Carfax and all these other third-party sites, in the short term, SEO pages will take a few months to start ranking. If they need to own that today, they could buy those terms on Google and actually own the first ad spot and the only ad spot, because no one else is buying ads for that right now. And then
if they never bought reunion services,
yep.
What are the top 4 or 5 things they need to do?
So I would say, pretty simple is building those pages like Dane was talking about. There are a lot of elements that go into them, but if you, do a search on Moz.com for SEO best practices, they could work on writing a meta title, writing a meta description, an H1 tag, all of that. And make that page relevant to the consumer, right? They can have their website provider add inventory on it. So I think that's another key element. The other thing is their Google My Business profile is an easy, I would call that low-hanging fruit, right? It's another free one that they don't have to pay for. Optimize that. Make sure you have the right categories in there. Make sure your name is correct. Do they have photos on there? Is it regularly updated? Like we were all talking about, it has to be updated pretty constantly, right? Google is a live, constantly learning machine out there. And if their Google My Business profile hasn't been touched in 2 years, Google's going to say, hey, is this business even active still? Is it relevant to show for this search? So if they can show up with an organic listing and a Google My Business profile on the side of that search, which is completely doable, I would say that would be a great starting place. And then after that, I would add on Google Ads and just really dominate the search.
Dane, take up where Andrew left off.
Yeah, like what Andrew's saying, a lot of deals don't even know, like with Google My Business, there are attributes you can choose, like whether it's veteran owned or you have like handicap accessibilities. You can tell
veteran owned is it?
Yeah, there are different attributes you can choose. Google gives you these attributes you can choose to tell more of the story about who you are, what you offer. It's kind of like the amenities you'd put on like your service pages. You're kind of letting them know different differentiators that you have to offer. So Google My Business has a lot more tools and practical things to leverage so that you can really flesh out the story of your dealership and what separates you. And and back to Andrew's point about, when you have that organic listing and you're in that local pack and your GMB is showing, you can be more strategic than with your spend in paid search. You can be smarter about it. Because as you build that organic ranking, you can think about and prioritize different needs that your dealership has contingent on your specific circumstances. We can't just say, here's exactly what you need to do, because there are so many variables out there, like, Jim. But, you can be smarter with how you spend your money.
Dave, three things everybody needs to do right now, whether they hired you or not.
Well, to build upon what Dane and Andrew are saying is benchmark where you are right now. I think when you're building out a plan, you got to know where you are and where you're starting. So, one of the things that we do, given the secret sauce away, it's not really that secret, is, we have done research into, tens of millions of different queries that are happening right now all across the internet. You can go into your, Google Analytics, or you look at Google Ads, and you can see what people are searching for in your market. And then we use Moz to go in and we see, well, where do we show up in these searches? Where do we rank? Are we in the first position, which we always aim to be in there? Second, third, are we not on page one? With dead bodies that Andrew was talking about in page 2 and beyond. And then we prioritize those building efforts, and we'd recommend prioritizing your building efforts around where you're falling short. So if you're not showing up for a Ram 1500 in Houston and you're a Houston dealer, then you really want to be creating a plan to show up in that first position. We know that that's a high volume search, so make sure you have a very relevant landing page with that. And are you creating maybe complementary content with a blog, or figuring out better ways in your website to get to that page and make the consumer experience show, because consumer experience on a website is part of the ranking factor. I mean, if Google knows that people are really engaging with this page and they're not going on that page and then bouncing off and leaving, then they know that that's a page that's satisfying what the consumers want. So I mean, that above anything else is benchmarking where you are now and building a plan to get better based on where you are now. And that happens not just with with organic results, but that happens with the conversion on your website. That happens with your PPC results. Is you really want to be monitoring where you are now, and work either with your team or with your agency partner on, what am I doing for the next 30 days, 90 days to get better? Where are we headed, and why are we headed there? It's almost impossible to expect it to just make everything magically get better. Without having a prioritized plan around specific steps you're taking to make those things better. And when you do it based on volume and consumer demand and your inventory, really understanding what the dealership wants and needs are, and what consumers wants and needs are, and combining those two things together, based on data, that's how you get better. And that's how you can expect to keep growing.
I was going to say, just kind of going back on a point Dave made too, is one thing to do today is ask, if you work with your internal team or agency partner, ask them what they're doing on the conversion side of things, because we can just send traffic all day long to your website, but is it the right traffic? Is it traffic that's going to convert? So is your agency partner not just focused on driving traffic to your website, but are they focusing on converting that traffic, compelling them to take an action?
I've got nothing against people in China and India, but chances are they're not going to buy a car from you.
You're probably right on that.
You could drive a lot of traffic to your site, but what is the quality relevance of that traffic is what we're talking about. Relevance, quality. So so you're talking local search. We're talking search within the boundaries of what is most probably going to buy a car from you.
Mm-hmm. And Jim, if I could jump in here, adding on to what Dane is saying, you have to be showing up for those local relevant searches and driving the right traffic, not necessarily from China or India, because that, it might be great, but it doesn't relate to you in Houston, Texas, if you're trying to sell Dodge Rams, right? But also, once they get to the site, you've got to be asking yourself, like Dave was saying, you got to benchmark where you are, but is your site set up to convert? Is your mobile site set up to convert? Because more than 50% of visitors are coming from mobile devices these days.
It's a lot stronger than 50%. I'm thinking it's going to be 70s or 80s of percentages of people that are communicating with the dealership are on a handheld.
Agreed.
Yeah, in most cities, it's 70, 80. Rural is still a little bit behind, depending on where the dealership's located.
Yep. And, if you don't have your phone number easily accessible on the site, or if you don't have a way to easily submit a form and check if this vehicle is available, just the basics, right? Just think about it as a consumer. If you're in there as a shopper, or hand the phone to your mom and say, hey, mom, figure out how to buy a car on this website, or how to ask for a price. And if she can't figure it out, then you might want to revisit where those buttons are, or what colors they are, or the way things are set up, because it's easy as a dealer.
Wait, what I heard you just say resembles a Geico commercial. So easy a mom could do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love it. Or a caveman. But yeah, I mean, it's easy for us to take for granted everything that we know about websites, and even for dealers, even if they're not well versed in digital marketing, chances are they're on their own websites every day, and they just know from muscle memory or reflex where things are located. You know, the person down the street or your mom is not going to know that same thing. So don't take that for granted, and get somebody else's opinion on it.
Well, no offense, but a lot of dealer principals don't even know where the on switch is on the computer. I mean, no offense. I was talking to a dealer just this week that's been a friend of mine for 35 years, and he's not exactly overly computer literate. And I was talking to him about the 5 big dealerships that he owns. And I was talking to him about Google My Business and the fact that his dealerships were falling short there. And I was recommending that he get an agency involved at the time. And it's amazing. He called his dealerships, and amazingly, all of a sudden, all of their GMBs started getting worked on. All of a sudden. So, I know there's a lot of dealers are going to see this broadcast that we're doing right now. A lot of dealer principals will see this, and no offense, if you're not up on it, your people should be up on it. And we're trying to do something here. You're how many people work at your company right now, Dave?
I think we're right around 55. Just hired a few new folks. Plus or minus 1 there, I think.
So if you are a smaller dealership or a rural dealership, and you've got a limited staff, your staff can do these things. But when you got 50, 60 people in this agency working on it, it certainly gives you a lot better reach and a lot better productivity for your dollar spent. And that's why I recommend that every dealer hires an agency. I like this one. So anyway, Dane, what
I got an anecdote here to speak about that a little bit too, that just popped in my mind back in the days when we were working at that 33 store group. When you talk about the benchmarking and different assignments and the importance of used car pages converting or new car pages converting or fixed ops, we used to recommend, and our group did this, where the used car manager in each store, their homepage on their computer screen was the used car SRPs, the search result pages. And the new car manager, they made their home screen default go straight to the new car, so they saw it every day. And then same thing with our parts managers and our service managers, so that everyone had eyeballs on that. And then another recommendation I could make with that we did within the group is that then we started comparing all of the stores against each other in terms of how strong is your phone call conversion on the used car pages, how strong is your phone call conversion on the new car pages, or chats, or that was well before the digital retailing explosion, but those kind of things. And then we started comparing all those against each other. And I think when we did that, that's one of the reasons why we were able to pinpoint so quickly which dealerships were not living up to the expectations that we knew were possible based on behaviors elsewhere. And that's one of the things that we recommend doing. And we do that internally now at Reunion. We have our dealership network where we know, if there's a dealership that's not showing up for high conversion for new car SRP or VDP phone calls, we know that's an area of an opportunity. And that's the kind of thing that dealers should be asking all their vendors is, how am I doing with my phone call conversion? How am I doing with my chat conversion? How am I doing on my used versus new versus
how am I doing?
How am I doing?
A big campaign of mine recently, because let's face it, a lot of the platforms people are using for their CRMs and their other technologies in the dealership weren't built for this. They're crashing every month. They're over capacity. You've got to have a reporting system. In the 1920s, John Wanamaker of Wanamaker Department Store said, I know that half my advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half. Well, today we know to the decimal point, how much of your advertising is wasted. We know how effective your advertising is. But if your CRM won't handle it and wasn't built for it, most of your CRMs were designed in the late 90s, early 2000s, before any of this technology was out there. And they're trying to patch them up and trying to update them. Your CRMs were never built to do this. You need to look at the new technology stuff coming out and open your mind to your measurement devices. What do you think, Dane?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be aware of not just where things are, but where they're heading. You have to be open to What's the definition of insanity? Waking up and expecting the same thing to happen, and expecting a change and doing the same thing. However it goes, right?
Yeah, you're gonna live in Groundhog Day.
You have to, like Dave said, you have to look at how you're doing, and if performance isn't there, then you need to start analyzing all your partners. You need to start really asking them the tough questions. You really need to look at some potentially new products or new services that can fulfill these needs that you have. Keep an open mind. I mean, that's one thing that Jim has always driven me crazy, especially when we've attended conferences. A dealer walked by, he flips over his badge, he puts his head down, he walks past you as fast as he can. But he might be walking past some very important players for something that they can do for the dealer that's going to improve their performance.
I'm telling dealers right now, your receptionists and your gatekeepers are turning away great opportunities. You need to start looking at every vendor that calls at you. Now, if they call on you, you might want to assign that to some of your key people to do a little groundwork and see. But still in all, do not screen away new vendors that are calling on you. You remember the old cartoon with the medieval guy is about to go fight with the spears and bows and arrows, and he turns away the machine gun salesman.
A little short-sighted on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Pick it up, Andrew.
Yeah, so, adding on to that and talking about benchmarking and measuring your performance, going back to the idea of conversion rates on websites, talking about those phone call buttons, talking about the get price buttons, if you can take a website from converting, 0.5% of your traffic to leads to 1.5% of your traffic to leads, every additional visitor that comes to your website, you get so much more value out of. And especially, if you're paying money to advertise your website through paid search or social media or whatever other channels you're doing, every additional visitor, that's 3 times the amount of conversion. So, that is extremely important. The other big thing I wanted to mention was the idea of branding. And, I think one area that some of these third-party sites have had a lot of success is pushing price transparency. When you see car gurus out there, they have, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars of an advertising budget every year. I don't know exactly how big it is, but it's a heck of a lot bigger than a dealership's advertising budget. And they're pushing, you can believe in us. We're telling you exactly, is that price fair? Is it a great deal? Is it a good deal? And I think that's a missed opportunity for a lot of dealers right now, is to price in a more transparent way. Last time I bought a car, something that attracted me to the dealer. So I bought it used, and they had a one price philosophy, which normally I'm completely against, because I always think I'm a decent negotiator, so I'll go in there and get a better deal. But they had a really nice slide about it in their inventory carousel. So the first picture was a picture of the car, got me to click on it because it looked really nice. Number 1, takeaway, take pictures of your cars, take nice ones. But number 2, brand your programs. And they built trust with me of, hey, this is why we priced this car the way we did, and this is a fair price. And I compared it against all the other dealers in the area, and it was higher than one other car, but that other car was not certified, had a few more miles, didn't look as nice. So they won me over with that one slide. And I think there's an opportunity for a lot more dealers to do. And it's a little bit softer than a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about conversion rates and measuring, exactly how many leads you get. But there's so much value in building that trust with customers. And these days, talking about how crazy 2020 has been and COVID and all of that is, people want the convenience. They want, if you can deliver cars to them, or, if you have a touchless service for them, or one price model, whatever you can do to set yourself apart. That's another big piece of the battle that I think
branding is absolutely essential. Branding. Now, yep. It's amazing because one thing about, we're talking about the domination of the third parties. Now you got to remember, every third party, almost all of them, their branding includes the fact that you cannot trust car dealers. Your car dealer is going to screw you over. I mean, that is their marketing plan.
Yeah.
So we're paying people that are slandering us, that are giving the customer the stereotype that probably fizzled out and died 30 years ago, if it ever existed at all. I've seen some of those practices in dealerships. I've been kicking around for a long time. Dealers don't treat customers that way, but the vendors brand themselves that we are going to abuse you and your salvation is coming in through us. So when people go to a third party vendor, they're already being told that you are not trustworthy. You need to generate traffic directly to your own website that tells people who we are, that we have an ethic, that we have a way we do business. Branding is absolutely, Kyle on the sidebar just said it, it's key. It's absolutely to have a better story than your competitor. Dave, pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, that could go all sorts of different directions there too. I mean, that is, setting the expectations for consumers is so paramount for all those different things. I was actually going to bring it back to those third-party websites and just talk about some of the differences there and why they show up as often as they do, and then just kind of recap some of those things. But I mean, it's we could talk about branding for a while too, because that is such a.
Well, let's talk about why the third parties show up. Why are they beating the dealers out? Why are they showing up in the 5, 6, 7 first positions after a search?
Yeah, so I mean, it's when you go in and I mean, there's a few different tools that you can look at to just see how much content is out there on these different websites and different pages. But they have pages that have specific relevance that are built around all of the different vehicles and all the different cars, and they don't rely just on VDPs. So I mean, I think a lot of dealerships, when they're looking at what an SEO plan should be, they're focused on, okay, well, right now I'm showing up on page 1 in 3rd position or 2nd position, and it's fine, but they're not looking at what page it is that they're wanting to. So part of the whole benchmarking process is you want the right pages to show up. And so, if a dealership is showing up in 2nd or 3rd position and it's a VDP, which is very often what happens, a VDP is a specific unit, and almost always that unit is going to be a 60-day old or older unit that's showing up. That's not going to even be your best vehicle to show up. It doesn't have that same relevance that has, what all these other, Auto Trader, Cars.com, Car Gurus, they have pages that are devoted to all of the Accords in Houston, all of the Accords in whatever city that you're in, or all the, Accords or Ram 1500s or whatever in any city that's nearby. And so they have a ton of different pages that are all built around what those searches are. And so I think that, to kind of recap all the things we talked about is,
how can dealers do that? How can dealers match that? What can dealers do?
Well, I mean, so that's where it does go back to priority too, because those sites do have, tens of thousands of pages, right, about these different things. But dealerships should be listing and creating content around all their new vehicles within their primary cities and having content saying, hey, we are here, and here's all the expectations, all the branding Andrew talked about for each vehicle, with all the inventory listed on it and all the value propositions that Dane had for new, for used, for all the different service amenities and offerings that you have on those pages, and showcase the vehicles on those pages, and then make sure that the UX, the user experience, is top of mind too, so that, a reason that Auto Trader and Cars.com and Car Gurus show up so high on those searches is that their user experience is built around consumers taking action and engaging and converting and reaching out and talking to people. So that's where, to summarize all those different things that we talked about, all those things come into play the same way, where they have the content there that satisfies what people are looking for, and they're delivering an experience that creates that engagement. And then, it's the same whether it's San Antonio or Columbus, Ohio, right, in terms of how that looks. So they can make those changes and they know it's going to convert. And so that conversion does help their ranking because the people are engaging on those pages. So you really got to take all those things into consideration at the same time. The content matches exactly what's being searched for, prioritize around that. You can, if you just only did like 40 pages, in a year, and you really need to be about 40 pages at least, then that's going to be a better step in the right direction than.
Now, is that what you're doing at Reunion?
Say again?
Is that what Reunion's doing?
Oh, no, we're doing well beyond that. I'm saying that if you're doing at least that, I mean, like your core vehicles for new and used and all your, so you need to have at least have. I'm just saying, like, if you're doing this from home or whatever, you want to make sure you at least have a page with relevance and inventory and the calls to action, the conversion opportunities for all of the primary things that you do. And don't let that be your VDPs, and don't let that just be your SRPs, because you're not going to end up ranking above these other guys when you do it that way. And so just having a game plan to where all these things, and I bet in that market Andrew shared with us, ran 1500s in Houston. There's got to be 2,000 searches a month for that at least, right? I mean, maybe more. That'd be my guess, 2,000, 3,000 searches. If you're in that first position, you're going to get 40% of those clicks. If you're in the third position, you're going to get 10% of those clicks. If you're below that, you're going to get none, basically. So, when you're building out your plan and mathematically that you can take the right steps, and that extra 1% here or 2% there can help give you that many more eyeballs and that many more leads. It's crazy how mathematically you can go about creating a significantly better outcome for yourself in terms of
Google is the battlefield. I'm sure Bing has some relevance, but Google is the big dog. And when you advertise conversion, I'm hearing all this. You were mentioning Moz. Now, what is Moz? Is that something that grows on the north side of a tree? What is? You've mentioned it, Andrew's. But sometimes we use terms that people coming into the industry need to know about. What is Moz?
Yeah, I can jump in here on this. So, something that I wanted to cover in this little talk was giving people a few tools that they can take away and use on their side. So Moz is one of those. So it's M-O-Z.
Not M-O-S-S.
On a tree. Yeah, the SEO industry has some really fun names in it. But yeah, so Moz is actually one of the tools that we use at Reunion. So we definitely believe in it. It has two different pieces to it. So one side is called Moz Pro. And that goes back to a lot of what Dave was talking about of benchmarking keywords. And number one, you have to determine what keywords are relevant to you and what keywords you think you can win in your market.
How do you know?
A lot of research. A lot of research goes into it. So, we thankfully have years of experience. We've done millions of different searches to come up with our particular strategy. But if you just use common sense, you can get part of the way there. What are people searching when they're looking for your products? Used or new Ram 1500 for sale, Houston, Texas could be one of those things, right?
And Moz would tell you that.
And Moz will give you data around that. Are enough people searching for it that it's worth you building a page around and spending your time?
Moz will tell you what is being searched for, exact words in your market. What's being searched for the most, not as much. Am I right?
So you have to feed it the terms that you want. So that's where it becomes a little bit difficult. Is you kind of have to think of the different terms that you want to come up with, and if you plug it into Moz, it'll tell you. You can.
Sometimes I know the answer to the questions I ask.
I know. You're just testing me. No, but it's great for the audience, right? Because they might assume like, oh man, I'm gonna, hit go, and then it's gonna give me all the information. It does take a little bit of upfront work. I'll tell you that right now. But if you're not winning those searches and you're not winning those thousands of relevant searches in your market, that's a huge opportunity and a huge money loss for you. So that's why it's worth either spending the time doing it or hiring a partner who already has the strategy kind of put in place. So Moz will give you a whole lot of keyword data, and if you pay for it.
Now, is that Moz.com?
Moz.com, yep. And so Moz Pro is the kind of keyword side of Moz.
Andrew, can I jump in real quick with one comment?
Yeah.
I think one of the ways that you can find a lot of the things people are looking for to pump into Moz, so you can do that benchmarking, is just within Google. Google Analytics and Google Ads have query reports that show you the exact things that are being searched for. I mean, and Google limits some of the visibility into that, but not all of the visibility. So you have a pretty good idea of, dang, I showed up, 10,000 times this month for this particular query. Then okay, let's go see where we show up in Google for that query. And you can do it manually, or you can make it automated, which is the recommendation Andrew's given here. So just quick sidebar on that you can find a lot of that information. It just there's a lot. I mean, if you go look at those query reports, you'll see that you show up for like thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of different queries your websites will show up for. So prioritize around the highest volume and the best converting.
Yep, that's a great point, Dave.
Yeah.
And adding on to that is if you can set up a Google Ads account without actually running Google Ads if you didn't want to pay for it. And the Google Ads Keyword Planner is another tool that I would recommend in terms of.
Whoa, what a cool trick! You set up a Google Keywords account, but you don't pay for anything.
You don't have to pay for
tools.
You don't have to run any ads under Google Ads to set one up, and you can use the Keyword Planner tool. So another free tool, and that'll give you a lot of keyword lists. If you put in new RAM 1500. It'll spit out different variations of it and give you search volumes for those.
Sign up for a keywords account. Don't pay for it, but you can use the keywords tools. You ever see the movie Home Alone?
Yep, just watched it recently. Classic. Yeah, that's on my must-watch list every year around the holidays. So I love it. Yeah, so that's definitely another good one. But the point is, there are a lot of free tools out there that you can get started with this stuff, and you might not have the background of years of experience and expertise, but you can at least get part of the way there just on your own of putting in a little bit of legwork.
Add to it, Dave.
Yeah, I think, to build on that is, I think that everyone should have a level of understanding of where they show up in the market. We've said benchmark so many times, but there's a lot of companies out there that you got to be wary about that. It's almost check the box. They're, I'm doing SEO, so that means they're doing it, but they're not creating content. They're not building content around where they're falling short. They're doing the same thing for everyone, and they're not building a plan that's unique to what, the dealership needs. So when that I'm not showing up for that RAM 1500 search that we keep bringing up as an example, or we know that we're not showing up for, particular parts and service searches, that should be part of what the next 90-day plan is what are the things we're doing to get there and get better. And so when you use some of these tools and the understanding, and you're always asking, why are we doing this, and what's the data that supports that? I think those are the questions that we really want to keep top of mind to keep pushing forward. Everyone has that. The data is not that, we don't feel like sharing all this information hurts us in any way, because it's all there. Everyone should be doing it. And
That's
when
what
we
I
encourage
like
people to be
I like
part
about
of that.
Union. You're not a big secretive cult. I mean, that phone number scrolling across the bottom of the screen, that's Dane's personal cell phone, isn't it? Or your personal?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah. So I mean, if somebody has a question, I mean, you're not opposed to answering the question.
Not one bit.
I mean, if somebody watching this broadcast or watching on the Alpha Dog On Demand platform, if you're watching that,
Turned off the light here. You went outside. The lights turned off.
There he goes, he's back.
Yeah. See, these guys are really economical. They were even they watch their own money and your money very closely. Go ahead, Dane. I just interrupted you. Expand on what we're talking about.
Yeah, and when people go, okay, you're creating this content, and let's say you have all your core models done, you have some used model conversion pages, the pages we talked about that have the keywords, that have a little bit of text. Now, caution, real quick, just a reminder, by the time they're doing those searches that have those modifiers that demonstrate they're ready to buy, for sale, near me, they've done the research. So you don't need to create a page that has 1,000 words on it, right? You just want to show off some value props and a little bit of copy about the vehicle just to hit on that relevance, to leverage variations of that keyword and have that inventory. But you go, you know what, Dane? I built out all those pages. I have these things built. What do I do from here? Blog. You can create, we call it complementary content. You can create valuable content that also links to that those model conversion pages that continue, with internal linking structure, building that authority. Again, this is a long-term game. So it just doesn't stop at those model conversion pages. And think on your blog, a dealer that's feeling ambitious, do some video content, some how-to stuff. Diversify it too. Just some people are readers.
Remember, video outranks text in Google.
Yeah, and so you want to diversify your content. Some people like visuals. Sometimes it's a graphic. We one time created, it got a lot of traction. It was what is my check-in? What do these dashboard icons mean? So we did a little funny thing. It was like, here's what you think it means, and it was a little funny thing, like interpreting what a dashboard icon meant. And it's like, here's what it really means. Have fun with your content too. So you want to have that diversity, but again, going back, you want to have that core foundational content based on keywords that are going to bring relevant traffic that's going to convert on your site first. Then you can start expanding out and sort of testing new fun stuff. So
blogging is really important. Getting content out there in different forms. And of course, video is three-dimensional, like we're doing right now. Video humanizes your dealership, I tell people.
Yeah.
Definitely makes.
It's funny. Just I got a fun example of that. I just wanted to verify. I just did. Andrew wrote a blog for Reunion back in 2017, explaining Porsche trim. All the different trims for Porsche. So if you type in Porsche trims explained, the number one result is actually a Reunion marketing blog that Andrew wrote up. But it's that's the importance. And he wrote that one because he loves cars. He loves Porsches and all things cars. But he saw that there wasn't a great page around that. So it's to this day, 3 years later, still number one search result is Reunion.
That's a branding play. You're being a resource. You're branding yourself as someone the community can turn to. That's a good, being a resource, being helpful is a long-term brand strategy.
Dane, do you think I might be an example of that?
Maybe just a little bit, huh?
Alpha Dog's sort of a cartoon character I created, but I come up 4 million times in Google, and it's really me. Branding is so important. Dave, this time has just flown by. Incredible. We have put out such high content, we had a number of viewers watch it, but the real strength of these videos is on the replay. Some people watch it live, like right now, but in the replay in the next couple of days, thousands and thousands of people will watch this video. What do you want to leave us with? What do you think we need to sign off with right now?
Yeah, I think, we talked a lot about organic. That was the overall message is that the true competition out there, a lot of folks think that the true competition is the other dealerships down the street. And when you know what consumers are searching for, largely make model searches, people wanting to buy specific cars, it's the third-party websites that are cleaning dealers' clocks right now when they don't have a plan. So I'd say, benchmark where you are. Where do you show up for those types of searches right now? How far behind or ahead are you compared to that? And then, with that benchmarking going on, build a plan to increase your visibility, because when you do that, you increase your traffic for those kind of searches that are in market and around the things that you're selling. Correlatively, your leads will go up and your phone calls will go up, and ultimately, with your team out there doing what they do best, your sales are going to go up. We started really the entire company around that model because we watched it happen for a 33-store group that, saw hundreds of millions of dollars increase in revenue. It's a tried true model because it's based on science and fact, and you can pinpoint where you are falling short. So benchmark, build a plan around that, and keep getting better.
If they call you, Dane, will you give them not just a demo, will you give them an analysis of what they're now doing and how you think you can improve it?
Yeah, first I can address their questions, and we can definitely set up a mutually agreeable time to really dive into the weeds and give them some actionable takeaways of where they're doing well. I'm not just going to sit there and we're going to poo-poo what they're doing. If they're killing it somehow, we're going to let them know. but we're going to find any opportunities of improvement. We're going to let you know. We'll definitely dig in.
Fantastic. Let me ask you, Andrew, is it a trend right now that people are abandoning the third-party lead generators and starting to generate their own stuff?
I think there's more of an awareness in the market now that dealers really need to focus on. I worked with a GM and he said, farm your own backyard before worrying about what the neighbor's doing. And I think there's more and more of that mentality. I can't say that everyone's just jumping ship because, those third-party leads are still so important to dealers. And we're definitely not encouraging get off all platforms, all third-party platforms.
That's what I was asking.
If you're not taking care of your Google My Business and your own website and you're paying thousands of dollars to the third parties every month, I would reconsider those priorities and really focus on your own content first.
Okay, fantastic. How about social media? Is that still a relevant factor in the mix?
Yes, definitely.
Facebook?
100%. Yeah, we drive a lot of quality traffic to their websites through Facebook, and that's another area where third parties are really competitive these days. I won't call out any third party names specifically, but they're selling Facebook ads to dealers using the dealer's inventory and branding the third party themselves. And their argument is, we're sending the traffic to your website, so it's good. I'd say, why put their logo on your cars if you can have your own logo there?
Have your own logo. Clubhouse has jumped up lately. Anybody aware of that?
Yeah, I was recently invited by a dealer friend.
I wonder how we're going to monetize that.
I don't know. I haven't even really looked at it much yet, but I'm definitely going to check it out.
Listen, guys, I appreciate this time. I'll have this all over social media. I'm about to sign us off, but hey, stick around a couple minutes after I sign us off, guys.